Hey, this is the Game Mage. Chris, I am just trying this out for the first time. We'll see how this goes. Today I'm going to talk to you about a couple games on Kickstarter. We're just going to start with the biggest hit on there right now that a couple of others have ended. The Reckoners, Steelslayer, expansion, co-op game of the novels by Brandon Sanderson. Um, it's a young adult novel. If you're not familiar with it, it's worth checking out. It's probably not one of the more well-known ones recently, but when it came out, it was definitely bigger. Sanderson now, he's gone on. He finished the series of The Wheel of Time, and this one flew a little bit under the radar by Nauvoo Games the first time it came out, but it's really been accepted pretty well, especially with the components. It's currently funding on Kickstarter. It's got 20 days left, as you can see. It's already 3 times its funding goal, which is a pretty good setting in terms of what they're looking at doing. Really, this is a difficult co-op game, and this seems to be sort of the trend lately. Recently on Kickstarter, there's harder co-op games, and personally, I'm a fan of harder co-op games. I know a lot of criticism comes out there for quarterbacking and people who don't like that sort of thing, but personally, my policy, especially when we play at my table, is I let people do what they're going to do. I let them just be themselves. I say, what do you think is the best move when they ask me, hey, what should I do? I say, do what you want to do. There's always, some element of wanting to maximize things and wanting to win it above all. But, really when it comes down to it, this type of game, I'm about having fun and letting people figure it out themselves, even if it means to the detriment of the actual game itself. It's received relatively good reviews so far. I mean, it says 1 to 6 players, 75 minutes, seal of excellence by the Dice Tower. So you sort of know a little bit about what you're getting. They're reprinting the base game at a deluxe level, and whether or not that's really in it for you is really probably one of the biggest factors on whether or not you want to back it during this Kickstarter campaign. Um, a lot of Kickstarter campaigns have gone to the deluxe level recently. Personally, I have really mixed feelings about that. Um, Sometimes the deluxeification of these games is a great thing. Other times, frankly speaking, it's just a price point that just jacks up the cost and isn't always worth it to me. I don't need every game in my collection. This is my own personal feeling. Um, and feel free to disagree with me. I don't need every game in my collection to have their own metal coin set. So when I see those being offered, that's a sort of a yellow stoplight for me, saying, okay, let's analyze this. Is this actually going to be worth it from that standpoint? The interesting thing about this game in particular in this campaign is they're actually doing something I've only seen a few other places, like what they did with Thunderstone Quest Advance when that came out with the Express, meaning they have a few copies that they're going to be getting much sooner that you can be ordering. And in this case, differently than Thunderstone Quest Advance, they're actually uh, charging a little bit of a premium to get it sooner. I don't think that Thunderstone Quest Advance did that. I can't be certain. It's been too long since I actually backed that one. But I thought that they just had a limited number based on, they have 1,000 and we're just going to send out 1,000. It was the same price as the rest of them. So that's a little bit of a twist. In this one, I think the biggest criticism that was reckoned towards it was just variability. Not very many big, epic bad guys, bosses in this one, and I think this expansion is really to try and address that. Um, you can see everyone's weighed in on this one. They've got videos. I mean, it's a well put together Kickstarter page. That is said. New Reckoners, so you've got new guys that you're going to be playing with, new equipment. Again, I'm a big fan of a lot of variety, so you're not seeing the same thing over and over again. Less so with characters, but especially with equipment and the guys that are known as epics, the bad guys. These superhumans, a la The Boys on Amazon Prime right now, if you've seen that. I mean, it's almost like they took The Boys based off of this, if you didn't know better, because you've got these regular people fighting these people with superpowers, You've got these boss epics. I mean, animations, I like them. I could do without them on this page, but they're a nice touch to let you know sort of a little bit more about the characters in this situation. Um, you know, again, your usual component breakdown. I like the fact that this component breakdown is after the videos of the previous game, because I feel like too often they put all of these components before everything else, and so you see what you're getting, but you can't actually tell what the game is for or what's actually going on in the game. So I like that they organized it that way. You know, this is the other trend I've seen recently. The why back it now, the exclusive content. It's not going to be released to distribution or retail. You know, again, Queen is starting to do this apparently too with their latest Amsterdam and Hamburg. You know, they're only going to sell through Queen. They're not going to sell through other distributors. They're going to do their own shop. So that's seeming to be the trend to avoid people like myself who in the past have said, you know what, if there's not an exclusive gameplay element that I can only get right now, um, I'm willing to pay a premium for that, but if that's not there, chances are, especially with shipping being added after the cost, it's not going to be worth it for me, and so I can pick it up at retail at, like they say on here, 20% off the MSRP, and if I'm smart and if I'm bundling my games, I can get free shipping. So you know, it's that sort of mindset that's evolved in Kickstarter even over the past 6 months, especially compared to a couple years ago when that used to be more of a balancing issue. Um, these guys have actually gone a different way in the stretch goals. They've said, you know, until we're going to get our stretch goals, we're just going to do the daily unlocks, daily reveals, which, to be honest with you, again, when I started doing Kickstarter, this was a big turnoff for me. I really wasn't a big fan of the daily reveals. I thought this was sort of counterintuitive. And then I sort of had that aha moment, like I think a lot of us have had, in saying, okay, a lot of these Kickstarter stretch goals are they're not really stretch goals. They're stuff that people have already planned out and pre-planned for, and we're going to get them anyway, especially Simon. You know, they've been guilty of that, you know, in almost all their games. But the illusion of stretch goals, of getting extra things, has really been great. And so every once in a while, you'll have somebody that really puts something out there that is an aha, whoa, designing that is cool. Awaken Realms, all of them. But otherwise, a lot of these are pre-planned. They're going to get them anyway. They're going to be included. And so it's interesting to see how the stretch goal things have evolved too. They've said they're going to do daily reveals, which now I'm actually a big fan of. I just finished backing the other hard co-op game that just finished. I'm blanking on it. Um, Uprising. Uprising. You know, the 4X, what they labeled the 4X one. That was just stellar. I'm a huge fan of the standees, actually, instead of unnecessary miniatures, again, for that pricing bloat. I like that. And, you know, they did the daily unlock reveals, crowd participation, designing stuff. So I really like that. And it's a little bit extra, too, to get you involved in sort of the background. Now, with this one, they've also said that they will try and do stretch goals if they've topped their previous campaign, which was something like 291,000 or something around there. You know, and so this is sort of your different pledge levels. You know, honestly, from what I can tell, this is probably going to hold its value. You know, except if you get just the basic retail. The basic retail is the question mark in this situation, because you're probably not going to get the deluxeification for less. You know, pre-painted miniatures, again, hit or miss. I used to think, especially, that these were going to be a big plus for me, but you know, we recently ordered a painting kit, and I'm going to try and get into painting with my oldest son when he's a little bit older, so that we can do some of our own. And frankly speaking, it'll probably be a big learning curve, but I've taken that on to try and do that. And so for me, pre-painted miniatures have never been a huge thing, but for a lot of people, especially where I used to be, this could be a selling point. Now, is it worth 30 bucks? I mean, 30 bucks for, what is it, 7? That's not actually a bad deal if they're done pretty decently. And the comments have said that they're better than probably, you know, your starting off painter would be able to do. So from a value standpoint, that's probably pretty good. Again, metal tokens and metal coins, you heard me earlier. I'm just not a big fan. I have plenty of games with them. I just don't think they add a whole lot. I like the feel of them, but I don't really want to pay $20 or $30 extra, because especially then that usually will play into the shipping cost too. And so if you're looking like me, if you're Dutch like me, if you are frugal with your decisions, even though you may be backing a lot, this is the difference between you do this on 2 or 3 games. This is the difference between getting a whole another pledge for another game, or two games or a large game at retail. And for me, sometimes I want that extra expansion so I can get the extra expansion instead of the coins, and or even just the extra game. There's lots of smaller game companies now that are offering things. I backed recently a couple Japanese um, indie developers, and so that would buy you a whole game on one of these. The recent Jingi, Jingi, that's the whole game with the shipping, for that metal coin. So for me, I'd rather have that than another set of metal coins. If I really need a set of metal coins, I can grab one from another game that I have. So for me, that's not nearly as much of a big deal. Um, so this is, again, this is in the daily reveals, patching the game. I mean, I think this is, I think this is interesting here, actually, patching the game when they talk about this. Um, a lot of companies are a little bit reluctant to say, hey, you know what, we kind of messed up on that, I think. To say mea culpa, especially when you're putting out an expansion. People like to frame it as, the expansion just makes it better. It doesn't actually patch it like a DLC does for a video game. So to have them do this, I think is just, being open and transparent. I think that builds trust anytime you do that. And so I like seeing that, saying, okay, look, the difficulty, the flow, the iconography that they talk about, things that people always harp on these companies for. Is the iconography clear? Is there too much of it? Does there need to be text instead of iconography? Is iconography done just so that it can be translated easier, but it makes it harder to learn initially? Things like that show that they're listening to feedback as well, and they're not just blindly, putting their blinders on and following the course no matter what. So I think that that's really interesting, that they're being so open with that. Um, and honestly, it shows quality improvement, QA. I mean, that's the number one thing we ask is, especially on Kickstarter, when you aren't always sure what you're going to be getting as the end product, more QA, I'm always a fan of. Kickstarter is more of an investment in that sense, that I want a better end product, even if it means that it involves more QA along the way, um, even if it delays the project by a couple months. I mean, we all know that by now that Kickstarter is you're going to be getting it late for 90% of the things, so who cares? That's not a huge deal. Um, but in this sense, that if you're willing to delay it even further because you're wanting to put out the best product, that's really the bottom line. What matters to me is the product that hits my table. And the product that hits my table, that leads to a better experience, not just for me, because again, like at the beginning of this video, I said it's about the experience I have with the people playing it. And so it doesn't have to be a perfect game, but if it's so difficult to play and so difficult to enjoy because you're trying to figure it out, well, that kind of defeats the purpose and leaves you frustrated more than anything else. I've had a few of those where I start to get it out, I start to try and play it, we start to try and go through it, and I just can't do it. I mean, honestly, it's embarrassing almost at times. Like, as the person often holding these game nights, I should be the one who knows how to play it, and I can't figure it out after, reading and watching stuff. That's never a good sign. Um, so I like this. Awakened Realms, again, to mention them a second time, um, being transparent. I mean, we all care about that, and this is probably a whole nother video topic in and of itself, is transparency. Transparency with your backers, and the ones that are good at it, the ones that aren't. There are more Kickstarter comments and discussions on Kickstarter comments on various channels and YouTube settings and everything like that, that go based on people that don't communicate well. There's been plenty of campaigns and plenty of companies that have had real trouble with that, and continuing to be an issue. So that's really something that, if you do it well, people are willing to forgive you, and they're willing to put up with more. If you don't, there's less laxity. I mean, Simon, Queen, one of the other ones that's been on my radar for a long time, Onimari, another hard co-op, where the communication has been, when it's subpar, there's a sense of entitlement with Kickstarter. Like I said, but people look at it as an investment. And when that's not there, telling us, hey, why is my investment not investment not showing up as soon as possible, or why am I not getting enough news on it? Why am I not seeing the dividends, if you will, to use the investment speak? People don't like that, for better or for worse, and for right or for wrong. I've been guilty of it myself. Not saying I'm perfect, but I've come to sort of get a little bit better at telling that. But I've also had some better experiences knowing what to expect now. Just setting the bar sometimes a little bit lower in terms of what I expect, as long as my end product is what I want and expect that to be. I'm willing to accept a little bit more lenient, give a little bit more leniency when it comes to that. So here again, you can see the pledge levels. Is it worth it for just the base game? For the base game to cost you $70? Because I mean, that's essentially what it's saying there. Is the pledge levels for this. So they're also allowing a couple other. I have mixed feelings about this. That's a whole nother video too. Offering other games either for you to pledge during the campaign that aren't even related. Again, MSRP being what it is, sure, great. They're offering 50% off the MSRP, at least. So take it as you will. Accessories, again, you've heard me. I'm not a huge big accessory person. Your mileage may vary depending on whether or not you're a completionist or not. A lot of us who back these end up being completionists. But for me, as long as it's not gameplay related, I've been able to put it aside a little bit to set off my inner completionist, so I don't have that element of things nearly as much. Shipping is going to be what it is. Honestly, that's if those are accurate, that's pretty good for the U.S. for where I'm at, and even for Europe, that looks pretty good for Europe and Asia as well. $15-20 U.S. That's a lot better. You're getting a couple of these countries, you're getting a little bit higher up, but it's not terrible until you start to get some of these further out zones. So it's about what I'd expect. It's pretty reasonable. There you have it. I mean, this is Steelslayer. I love the theme. I haven't read the books, disclaimer-wise, so I can't speak to how true it is to the source material. I've read in the comment sections, people are saying, if playing the first game doesn't get you to read it, and read the second book, then you don't really have to worry about too much about spoilers. But I guess there are some spoilers in it, especially the second one, from just what people have commented about the images and such. I can't personally speak to that, but it is what it is. I mean, if you like the theme, if you like it, it looks like a very interesting club. It's gotten good reviews. It's got over a 7 on Board Game Geek, which is your basic. I mean, personally, I look at it, and I don't know enough about the turn play. I haven't watched some of these gameplay videos, so I can't speak to whether or not it's me. I passed on it the first time. I wasn't super excited by it. Superhero games just haven't done right by me. I'm looking for a certain aspect of things, and I guess maybe I played the Sentinels of the Multiverse at the beginning of my board game experience, beginning of my journey, and it was okay. And then I realized the limitations to that type of game, and I realized that it really wasn't for me. So I just got a nostalgia of that game when I saw this the first time it was on Kickstarter, and I really wasn't a big fan. I think it's worth a second shot. Personally, right now with me, with the price point, especially with the things I've backed recently and the things I'm looking forward towards the future, I probably won't be backing this. Now, it might be a game that, especially the base game, that I'd be interested in trading for, so I could see about whether it appealed to me before the campaign ended, or even late backing, because late backing is totally feasible nowadays. Pledge managers are open for months and months, but that might be my approach. So I can see, okay, is it actually something worthwhile? I can go and late back it and see, not necessarily have to commit funds up front without necessarily having a whole lot of the lack of, or I guess based on the lack of difference between necessarily the campaign and the late backing. Some of these campaigns are now charging a late fee. Essentially, they're raising the prices by $5 or $10, or they're not including something small in the pledge manager if you're only backing the pledge manager without even putting in a buck during the campaign. But I didn't see anything with this one. So take that for what you will. If you like this sort of thing, I mean, if you like dice, I love dice rolling. I love simultaneous play. I love co-op play. I love action selection. But the theme and the actual gameplay, I don't know enough about to not say it's not for me. So I mean, probably from here for the next 3 weeks, I'm probably going to actually watch a couple gameplay videos to know, is this something that's worthwhile? Is it something worth its trading for and then backing for the late pledge, or not? And so, if it's something for you, go for it. I think the deluxe levels, especially with all of the things that it adds deluxe wise, it will probably hold its value. And it's got enough variability that the gameplay doesn't seem to be, this is exactly what we ask for nowadays with all of this stuff. They've got a rules as well. They give you a little bit of everything. This is a well thought out campaign page. I really like the clarity. I really like the order in which they've done things. It's just well done, and everything from the first campaign does that as well. So the only question is whether or not it's for you, and then whether or not these deluxe and epic levels with the tokens and the sleeves are something for you. Personally, I would pass on them. I would get the basic level. But if you are more really heavy into this, especially with that, I think it's probably going to hold its value. You'll at least break even. So it's something to consider. Yeah, that is the Reckoner's Steelslayer. It's worth checking out. It's still got 20 days left. I mean, it's easily going to surpass the previous campaign, so it'll be interesting to see what they put out there. And that's it. This is my first video as your game liege. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.